It's a secret, but it's an open secret. It's plain to all, but only a few see and understand. Then don't you understand this parable? Then how will you understand any parable? It's a secret, but it's an open secret. It's plain to all, but only a few see and understand. Then Jesus said to them, don't you understand this parable? Then how will you understand any parable?
Understand this parable? Then how will you understand any parables?
It's a secret, but it's an open secret. It's plain to all, but only a few see and understand. Then don't you understand this parable? Then how will you understand any parables? It's a secret, but it's an open secret. It's plain to all, but only a few see and understand. Then Jesus said to them, don't you understand this parable? Then how will you understand any parables?
What's up, VNA? What's up, TLC? What's up, Peterson Sphere? What's up, the entire worldwide internet? Tonight, and tonight only, we are Yap. No cap. All VNA. No breaks. JBP, just buttered peanuts. So my wife is out of town on a girls' trip, and I'm lonely. So I says to myself, McMo, why don't you stream tonight, buddy? Why don't you get on the old internet? Exercise your prophilicity. And I said, I might just do that. Actually, what really happened was originally I wanted to go over and react. Dare I say react to the local distance PVK video that he accidentally released this morning. And wouldn't you know it, that the sneaky pastor himself goes and takes away my viewing privileges after I had already watched and commented. And I lost a viewer saying that. Can you believe it? Nathaniel, you might have to get on here, brother. You might have to join me, and we can talk about it, because I couldn't quite remember all of the great points, other than the fact that he did say something that I've been meaning to say for a long time, which is the fog machines and lights are not so different from the candles and incense. And to make much about that is cope. I added that last little bit. Let's see. What do we got? Yeah, Nathan is my only friend right now, my only viewer. Thank you for the engagement, Nathaniel. And now I have 0 viewers. I must have scared him off. Well, the link is in the chat. Maybe I should go back and pin the chat. Maybe I should send this link to people and say, hey, why don't you join me? But I did have a couple other ideas of things that might be fun to do. One thing of note is if you end up finding my Ko-Fi somewhere, you may see that I have set a new goal. And I'm going to keep the goal a secret, except for the people who actually end up going to my Ko-Fi and seeing the new goal. So if you're interested in what the new goal may be, can I get a Kierkegaard in this hizzy? Oh my goodness, RJ, ask and you shall receive, brother. Seek and you shall find, brother.
We can summon McMo.
I want to talk about which.
What is it? It's all you have to do is say Kierkegaard.
Kierkegaard. We'll see if he stops in the chat later.
We'll see if he stops in the chat later. He's here, folks. He's here. RJ, Cassandra, welcome. We're just chilling. The link is posted. Please feel free to come on and make me feel virtually not alone. But before you do that, and I was having because I needed to sign into my my X account. Oh, that was the problem. I had picked the wrong email. That'll do it. 9 times out of 10, if you put the wrong email in when you're logging in somewhere, it's not going to find it. You know, that's just statistics. 9 out of 10. But what I'm looking for is Pete, our very own Pete from Strange Theology, is in a bracket. He's being voted on in here. Let me share Oh, wait, I have a notification. Do I look at that? Oh, yeah, that's me, dum-dum. Got the notification. Oh, hey, Mandy, what's up? What's up? We're just yapping. Nobody's joined me yet, but my wife's on a girls' trip, and so I'm kind of, bored and probably not going to be able to sleep that well, and so I'm just kind of hanging out. Would love for someone to come make me feel virtually not alone. We could talk about anything, but until then, I'm going to share my screen because I want to encourage everyone to go over, if you have an X account, go over to x.com and vote for our buddy Pete's podcast. This is just his, let's see, where is it? Oh, you guys can't even see that. All right. What do we got? We got to go find where he says, let's see, maybe in his replies. I know that this is the guy. The Dead Man Walking podcast is the account that is doing the draft, or not. Maybe I don't know if it's a draft. Okay, here we go. So right now Pete's winning. Can you guys see that? Is that big enough? Let's see if I'll zoom in. All right. So we've got Strange Theology Pete versus the Presby Girls podcast. And then we've got, of course, Khloe Kardashian popping up in my What's Happening. Thank you for making me look bad, Khloe. But here you can see Pete's winning 65%. So maybe we hold back the troops. Maybe we hold back the troops a little while longer. Should we try to see Pete's competition? Should we look up the Presby Girls podcast and see what we see? Another idea, I literally just had this idea, but I realized that when I upload the music, it's meant to be background music. So I could literally just pull the volume down and play music in the background. I've never thought of that before. That might, let me know if you like the vibes of the music in the background. Steven Schwartz, what's up, brother? Just hanging tonight. Gonna do some research, see who Pete's competition is. Mandy, shots fired. Pete's winning that poll because their name sounds so lame. Shots fired. Let's check in on the Presby Girls podcast. See what that's all about. What's up with you guys' lives? Let me know in the chat if you've got a podcast that you listen to outside of TLC that you would be willing to vote for in a head-to-head match on X.com. Or, you could join me and we can have a conversation, like a real conversation. That would be fun too. Oh, they do a little virtually not alone. Hollywood Squares themselves. All right. Let's take a look. Oh, man. They've got intro music. We might be cooked. Yeah, I probably picked the wrong song for that. You know what that really was, Yon God? That was some video clip like slowed down a lot so that it was like, which, yeah, maybe you could make the case that our digestive system is just a slowed down version of our vocal cords. Whoa. Jan, you gonna join me, dude? It's like, it's probably like early in the morning where you're at or something. This might be, I don't know if you're a morning person. Somehow I doubt it. But you could prove me wrong. Let's listen to what these folks have to say.
The millennial co-host, the smart one, who is going to tell us a little bit more about our topic and then get things going with our guests.
And I'm going to get the speed up a little bit too, actually.
Well, good evening, y'all. Thanks for tuning in and listening.
Y'all can hear that, right?
Thank you for bearing with us while we took a very, very long break. And yes, Derek, we did not retire. We are millennial. We are not boomers. So come on. Anyway, we have 3 guests with us tonight. Charles Hayham, Sarah Drew, and Job DeLoma. And we are very, very excited to hear from them. What we're going to be doing tonight, y'all, is hearing from these 3 people about a change in perspective. They held a belief, were convicted of a different belief, and made the switch slowly, quickly, some more fast than others. Yeah, I can't even talk tonight. So we're going to be listening to them and thinking about Christian persuasion, how best to talk about difficult topics.
Christian persuasion.
The age that we live in.
I might be one of the most
especially
persuasive
if
Christians there is. Not to
it's just a
brag.
fact of life that there seems to be a lot of screaming into the universe.
Not to brag, but I might be one of the most persuasive Christians there's ever been. Not to brag. It's a confession.
And that usually doesn't help change minds. So we're going to be talking tonight to 3 people whose minds were
She got
actually
me.
changed, and we want to ask them questions as how, why, and how did it happen. So I'm going to let each of these guests introduce themselves. We're going to start with Sarah Drew. So Sarah, thank you for being on tonight. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
And we've got a
Thanks for having
guest.
me. My name is Sarah Drew. I am married to.
We've got a guest. Steven, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's interesting now that I've been doing these for a while. Like, it used to be I was so like nervous before a stream where I would, like, during the intro I would just be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in front of the whole world. Now I'm at the point where like I'll get the idea to stream, and then if I don't like come back here and start it immediately, then I'll just like find excuses not to do it.
Yeah.
You still at work, man? It's pretty late.
Oh yeah. It's 6:30 here. Not too bad.
Man, that ain't a union job, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, dude, it's better than my job. Actually, just turned into a real job recently.
I hate when that happens.
When I joined this company, there's just 4 people in my department, and being new, it's not like you can do a whole lot because you're not experienced. So our workday was we probably maybe did 4 or 5 hours of work a day, maybe. And other than that, we have ping pong tables here and free break room and video games. We have a whole arsenal of Nerf guns. But with the advent of growth, it's a real job now. So I'm here from maybe 11 to 8 every day.
Yeah, I wonder if you could like split up jobs between jobs that are like when everything's going right, it's easy, versus jobs when everything's going right, it's like hard. Like I've definitely like when I was a sound guy, if everything was going right, I had the easiest job in the world. If you've got a great band and there's no problems with the system and everybody's gear is working good and everything sounds good, then you could just sit back and take credit, and people will give you compliments for literally just turning on the machine. But when it's bad, you got to work hard to make it not just to be mediocre. But now I'm in a job, it's more like what you're kind of talking about, where like when things are good, I have to like lock in and like really focus, and I have to get off the TLC, get off of Discord or whatever, and like, get to work when it's going good. It's when it's not going so good, or that's not even true. Most of the time I can hang out in Discord because I'm traveling and in my car. Let's see what Phoebus, welcome, sir. Good to see you. Hop on in. We're talking work. We're just yapping tonight, brother. If my work is too easy, he says, if my work is too easy, I start worrying about my salvation.
Yeah, no joke. The hardest I've ever worked in my life was making $9 an hour at unloading trucks at 4 a.m. at JCPenney.
Oh man!
I started working there after I got fired from a management position at a cigar store. It's shocking that I used to work at a cigar store.
That explains so much about you.
Yeah.
That one in that few sentences, just you got fired from a managerial role at a cigar store is like that's like the start of a country song or something. You just set the whole scene of the rest of your life. That's awesome.
But dude, I mean, unloading trucks at 4 a.m. was solid work. And so when I got this job at this tech company, it took me maybe 6 months for me to get my anxiety out of the way. Because I was so used to constantly being monitored, like at work 24/7, being yelled at for like leaning it against the wall for 3 seconds too long, all that kind of thing. And when I came here, I realized that nobody was paying attention to me, or nobody was criticizing me, or nobody was judging me. And also, they were paying me more money than I'd ever expected to make again in my life. So I felt like I had this weird, just a complex that I wasn't supposed to be here. That I like, this is way too easy. I'm probably out of my league. All that good jazz.
Yeah, they have some psychological term for that, don't they? It's
imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Sherry. The link is pinned, I believe. So if anybody else wants to join us, feel free. But if not, me and Steve are just going to talk work. It's going to be real.
Big Mo, I did want to bring something up to you.
Please do.
Get your opinion on. My immediate family's Orthodox. My wife, obviously, our kids, but we have Presbyterians, we have Anglicans, we have Roman Catholics in our, extended family.
Meta-modern family.
Very, very meta-modern. But I was actually able to refrain from smacking my 2-year-old son across the face the other day while we were praying, because he did the Protestant move of closing his eyes while I said the Our Father. And we don't close our eyes in this family when we pray. Damn it.
I didn't know that was a thing. Do Greek Orthodox keep their eyes open during the prayers?
Yeah, dude. Only, as far as I know, Protestants close their eyes while we pray.
It's only us?
I think so, because it's not an Orthodox thing. I don't know if it's a Catholic thing.
Guys, we need some research in the hive mind here. Please let us know if you close your eyes when you pray. I thought that was a given, but
it was actually one of the selling points of Orthodoxy that I didn't have to do that anymore, because
you don't like closing your eyes.
No, because you always have that one adult that made sure that everybody had their eyes closed, because a prayer only works if you have your eyes closed.
Oh, I see.
Because that's how because everything's like, the real feelings are in this area of the body,
The face, yeah. I like closing my eyes. I like keeping them open, but I like closing them too. So, I sometimes forget how much little fundamentalist rules like that can really shape people, Not that it's not important, I guess, but I mean, I could probably, I guess my opinion on that, I don't know. It's weird. It's like, is the Protestant move to close your eyes, or is the Protestant move to close your eyes specifically because everybody else has theirs open, or vice versa? Like, because I mean, I remember being a kid and opening my eyes during the prayer, so now you've got the reverse, right? Like, you're having to discipline your kid not to close his eyes. That's funny.
Yeah, because every time we go to the grandparents' house, father-in-law gives a traditional Protestant prayer, but most everybody closes their eyes.
Yeah, every head bowed, every eye closed.
But yeah, it's something I didn't know if anybody else has, if Protestants were even aware that that was a thing.
I certainly wasn't. I did not know that. I mean, I've gone to Catholic mass and judged some of them for not closing their eyes. But if they, if that's like a cultural thing that I'm missing, then that's on me 100%. I chalked it up to the lack of piety I see in most high churches.
Yep.
But that is an interesting thing. Like, I've considered what my children, potential future Lord willing's children, like how I would teach them to pray. I mean, if my dad was in your shoes, he would have just explained to the best of his knowledge why Protestants and Catholics are split, or why Eastern Orthodox and Protestants are split, and just say that, like, yep, they do this thing this way, and they think that's how they worship God, and we do it this way because this is how we worship God. My dad was always giving me like way too much information as it pertained to like church history and theology and stuff like that. But yeah, you're interested in that kind of stuff, so it wouldn't be too shocking to me if your kids at least could like grok some of it,
Yeah. Anyway, what else is going on, dude?
What else is going on? Well, did you hear my whole thing about Pete from Strange Theology? He's in this like battle on X. He's got this like poll. They're doing this bracket. So we were like, I as the master of this stream was doing some research, some Oppo research to see what these ladies' podcast was like. But
what was the poll?
So they're having a Reformed podcast poll on X, and I'll pull it up real quick. Let's see. And so you can see right here, our boy Strange Theology Pete is leading 65.9% to 34.1%. So we don't need to. I don't think we need to give him too much extra help. It's more so just that I want people to be aware of this because there's a big bracket at the end. So let's see if we can go down to the bracket. Yeah. Okay. So Pete's all the way over here with, where was it? Strange Theology, Presby Girl podcast. What's crazy to me is I know very few of these Reformed podcasts. Like back in the day, I used to be like, I knew a lot of Reformed. I thought I knew a lot of Reformed podcasts, but this is like insane. This is a giant. It's going to be a giant bracket, and then the winners get like a rock wall Bible. Never heard of it. The most reformed content post will win a legacy cigar pack. So maybe that would be worth you getting involved. But Phoebus, I need to see something on your camera, buddy, before I put you on. And we've got the man himself, Tim. What's up, dude? Are you streaming tonight? Did I step on you?
I was thinking about it.
Well, yours would probably be more interesting than this one. I'm just kind of bullshitting because I got nothing better to do. And now my wife is calling. So I'm going to have to answer this. But you guys should talk. I'm going to let Phoebus on, see what he says. Phoebus, you're on. Is that you?
Yeah, I'm trying to fix my camera. 1 second.
All right, cool. All right, give me a second. Tim, play us some music. I got to go talk to my wife real quick. Oh, wait, Phoebus is here, Tim. Okay. was lovely. Thank you, Tim. And I noticed we do have more than 3 now, so I can take off the VNA bubble. Phoebus, welcome, sir. I wish I could do something other than. Oh wait, can I? Can I turn
I hardly
down?
hear anything.
Oh yeah, I can change Tim's settings and just bring his volume down. I never knew that. Not all the way mute, but just a little more subtle for us, you know?
I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Tim, I turned your mic volume down, so if you want to say something, you're going to have to turn it back up.
It's pretty good.
I didn't know I could do that. That's crazy.
I stopped, so you can turn it back up.
All right.
I start my morning at 5 a.m. with Chad playing the guitar, and now I'm in the evening.
Hey, there you
With
go.
Tim. It's not bad.
Bookends.
I also recognize about 2 of those podcasts, McMo. I feel totally disconnected from whatever that world is. So
We're out of the loop, man. We're washed up.
I don't think I was ever in that loop, but yeah. Yeah. It's pretty funny though, like PVK doesn't make the cut, I guess. He's not reformed enough.
That's funny. Yeah, maybe it would be too big, you know, like Doug Wilson wasn't on there, was he?
Oh, that's true. I don't know. I didn't look.
I mean, my gut instinct goes to it's probably just some sort of like it's like a marketing thing for each other, right? Like it's
yeah.
It was a good idea. The main guy who did it, you know, it might behoove us if we had the it's Neil's daughter's birthday. Happy daughter Neil's birthday. Happy birthday Neil's daughter.
Pelicans.
Oh, at the Pelicans game.
I don't know what that is.
It's the New Orleans Pelicans. It's an NBA game. It's an NBA team. So let's I can look up where or who they're playing tonight. Let's see. Yeah, Neil. I think Neil's been to a couple of Pelican games this year. Kind of an NBA enjoyer. They're playing the Sacramento Kings. Freddie
Nice.
D's Sacramento Kings.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if they're as expensive. It's quite expensive up here to go to sports teams in Toronto. So
yeah,
you didn't say it right. It's Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah. I jumped on so you could exercise my work demons, McMo.
What's your problem with work?
It's an idol. So I was only half joking about questioning my salvation.
Are you what they call a workaholic?
No, not necessarily. I don't get any ultimate fulfillment out of it. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely need to do a minimum amount of work before I start viewing myself as worthless. That's for sure. My dad only ever says 2 nice things about other men. He'll either say he's a really smart guy or he's a really hard worker, and that's pretty consistent, like my whole life. And one is like the CRC fetishization of the intellect.
Is that a CRC thing?
Well, it's probably everybody, but it's a bit more in the worldview. And
Plantica, because of Plantinga.
Oh, Plantinga. And yeah, the work thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you like the people you work with?
Generally, it's pretty good. Yeah, I have a good job. I have a tough time taking new people on. I'm very suspicious.
I love new people.
Takes me like 2 years to warm up to the new person. But yeah, I do. I really like my job. I have a good job. But yeah, it was all definitely the message I got as a young kid was that your value was derived from how hard you worked, and sort of connected to whether you could be successful in that. Like when they said hard work, they really meant hard work in a, succeeding direction, not in a, not just hard work at your Walmart or whatever. So
yeah.
it kind
I feel
of
like it's a heavy topic, but it doesn't seem that complicated or a complex of a topic. Like
No.
it's, it seems like it's very much like a conceptually it's fairly clear that work is a curse. Like in some ways, like the toil of the earth is just like that's like part of the curse, like and so we
sort
shouldn't
of, yeah. It's also, I mean, we would say it's there before the curse too.
Yeah, there is a work that is, energizing and there are people out there who like I mean, you said it, you love your job. I do
I don't think we're
there's
ever supposed to sell insurance.
Yeah, probably not. I've considered selling insurance. It seems like a pretty like
there's some good systems up here. The Amish and the Mennonite, they have like their own private insurance stuff, and they basically just at the end of the year they're like, this is how much it cost, so now we got to recoup that cost, and they just keep it very simple. There's no profit. I think that model was tried to be, I forget what that's called, I don't know, cooperation or something.
Yeah,
And
I've got some family members who I've got some family members who did a similar thing, and it ended up not working because, and I don't want to violate HIPAA or whatever, but basically my relatives, their illness,
Uh-oh,
they were too sick. Did I freeze? Basically, my family members were too ill, and so the bills got larger than the co-op wanted to pay, and they got like booted, and they had to get like real insurance or something. But
yeah,
Tim,
it sort of works in those Amish Mennonite communities because they're committed to the whole thing. They are communists, I guess.
They don't have type 2 diabetes.
Oh yeah, they do. Did Tim
like
freeze?
Sweets would be like one of the few vices that they would be allowed.
Yeah, they love their pies.
Tim, do you find it difficult to kind of attain what I've heard called a work-life balance? Or if you do, how do you manage that?
I just do the best I can.
Yeah, I went to. Oh, go ahead, Tim. I forgot. Yeah, go for it.
I'm in a sort of the most privileged position I've ever been. Most of my career has been just $6 an hour. Closely monitored, nights, weekends, holidays. And now I have the flexibility to take care of my special needs dog and take care of myself with, my ongoing medical needs. And luckily I have a boss that is very kind and flexible. Yeah, I mean, I think most of these concepts like work-life balance or workaholic or, it's all just bullshit. Like, it's just the biggest cope with a big C that, like most of this doesn't actually matter, Like we're all going to be dead soon, and there is no afterlife. Nothing happens after we die, and so like most of this didn't mean anything when we did it. It didn't mean anything before we did it, and it's not going to mean anything after we did it. So enjoy getting your paycheck for nothing. You know,
Vanity of vanities. Why not just kill oneself?
Yeah.
Because the human imagination can think of pleasures yet still to come.
That's where I would be, Tim. I would be killing myself and then probably hating myself more because I couldn't kill myself. So I'm probably not going to take your message to heart.
The only thing that stops me from suicide is I don't want people to think negative thoughts about me. It just killed me.
It would be quite embarrassing. That's often kept me from going down too dark of roads. It would be pretty embarrassing to do that. But
And
yeah,
also, I
man. I
wouldn't
mean,
show up to work the next day. You have to work, you know?
I think that I definitely have felt the meaninglessness that Tim's talking about.
Oh, me too.
Like that just seems like, I don't know. It's almost like that seems like part of the gig too. Like um, I have a very good setup professionally, but it's still like the most difficult part of my life is just like clocking in, and doing this thing that I don't want to do for 8 hours, so that I can live in a house that I don't really care that much about living in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Okay.
Yeah, Mo, that's what I was going to say is we can give like the tech company liberals a whole bunch of shit, but I think that's the best thing that they ever done is actually the whole work-life balance thing. Because like in my company, if I need to go get an oil change or have a doctor's appointment, I just leave. I just tell somebody I'm gone, I'm going to an appointment, and they go, okay, see you later. Versus most companies, it's like you have to take time off or you have to schedule it before and after work or all that kind of BS. And so like this whole liberal company giving you free time and they actually care about your hobbies and stuff like that. It's like I think that's actually an improvement as opposed to a generation ago. So
It's because they own you, Steve. They're just trying to.
oh yeah,
You just don't see it anymore. That you're the golden handcuffs. Yeah. I only encounter those feelings when I'm not working. Probably my lowest, especially physically, my lowest would have been in university. It was hard for me to see like a desk job as work, especially when a desk job would get slow or I've had a couple different desk jobs, but when you like make a sale and it's like woohoo, yeah, I find that all a little bit depressing. So I work with my hands for my mental health.
yeah, having a day where I've done pretty much nothing but send emails definitely does not help my neuroticism. All right, Parsons normally comes in with heavy hitters of comments. What has he got to say? PMC postmodern care about your feelings, boss. I'm your best friend. How's your sex life, Bob? I probably should have screened that first. Good grief. Looks like we got another guest. Add to the stage, me.
Sherry, she's got the best. She has my childhood job. I used to shovel manure every single day, and Sherry still gets to do that.
Technically, Sherry's unemployed.
Oh yeah, you would. I would. I did just wake up from a nap.
Well, this is now that you're here, Sherry. It's reminding me of kind of some of the stuff we talked about on the Lives of the Saints with your presence here. I'm wondering to what extent this is has to do with what we were talking about in terms of work in the home versus out of the home versus all of that kind of thing.
Homeworking. Eh?
Yeah, with my looking back at how I was raised, it was like a real privilege that my dad was always around because on the farm you have both parents all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty healthy environment. Now, my dad wouldn't have been available for like play catch with me or something like that, but you're always working with him, or he's working and you can just go hang out with him, sit on a log while he works or something like that. So it's a different life.
Yeah, lots of women, they would get to a certain age and their husbands would retire, and then they would want to go insane. And it was kind of like the conversation would often revolve around, so what's it like now that he's home all day? Oops, can you guys hear me? Oh,
Yeah, it's good.
okay. Um, and my husband's always been home. I mean, he went away to work a few times, like every couple of years he'd go off, earn some cash, and then come back, and we'd scrounge our way through the money. Yeah, but yeah, we wanted it that way though. Like, he did have like a 9 to 5 in Switzerland when we lived there, and we were asking ourselves, like, what is, like, kind of like what Tim was feeling. What's this for? Like, why are we doing this? We have these children. He hardly ever saw the kids. He'd be up in the morning and gone, and then he'd get home. When they were little, they were already in bed or just about to get into bed. Mhm. So we opted out.
It's making me think too now, just reflecting a little bit more on what Tim was saying about how I've had like good bosses and bad bosses. And there was a sense that when I worked for the bad boss, it almost gave me like something to wake up for, to like go fight this like evil person that was like had it out for me. I had that kind of libido, you could almost say, just kind of kicked my ass into gear kind of a thing. But then I've also had jobs where my boss was like very kind and very forgiving and like very patient. And yeah, those were the jobs where it felt less like my job even mattered. And so it kind of was hard to get a sense of like meaning from what I was doing every day. So
That's because you're just totally depraved, McMo.
yes, I've been trying to tell you guys this for years now.
Feels good when someone tells you that every morning.
Yeah, McMo, the jobs I most like are just like what you're talking about, where if you're not there, nothing happens, or like they can't live without you, basically. And so, like when I ran the retail store, it was like that. The place would just fall apart if I wasn't there. And in this job, when we were small, it was the same way. But now we have all these damn employees, and the place can function without me, and it sucks.
Yeah, I think the meaning crisis is actually a crisis of privilege, not a crisis of meaning, right? The need for meaning is in and of itself a cope.
Yep.
I mean, there's something like 85,000 to 100,000 children that are unaccounted for at the U.S. border over the past 4 years. Most likely have been kidnapped, raped, killed, or sold into sex slavery. And it disgusts me when I hear people say, I know that God will look out for me. I trust in God, and he's taking care of me. I know I'm taken care of. Well, it's interesting that God is taking care of you and didn't take care of any of those children. There are billions of people that have been born into terror, lived in terror, and died in terror. God didn't take care of them. Their lives didn't mean anything. Their names will never be memorialized on a granite wall. Their faces will never be etched into stone.
What makes you say God didn't take care of them?
Yeah, when I say God takes care of me, it doesn't preclude dropping dead tomorrow.
Or having cancer, or struggling with some chronic illness, or.
But
yeah,
I do know what he's saying though.
Cope.
That's the classic Ivan from Brothers K argument.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just
I
it.
think you actually I think you made an error, and I don't know if it's just semantic. Like you could probably clear it up for me and what you mean, but like the meaning has to supersede cope. So like a search for meaning can't be cope because in order for something to be cope, it has to be a meaningless gesture away from. It has to be basically trying to deal with the pain of the world. And so if you're saying that there's these people who live in born in terror, live in terror, die in terror, but um, that there's no meaning that could have made it worth it, then to me, then what makes that from being cope? Like doesn't it just collapse on itself to where you could say that like calling all meaning cope is actually cope?
No, because it all comes back to a narrative. Like this idea of meaning is built on a cement foundation of a story, right? Where you are the protagonist and there's rising action and hopefully there's a climax and hopefully I'll be the hero of this story. And so when we're looking for meaning, we're really looking for extra chapters in our story. But the story doesn't exist, right? Like there is no story.
Well, no, you can't say that.
I think that's
Like-
another error.
I just did.
You just like that's too much certainty for me, even me. You know, you can't say there's no story. You don't know.
I say it with so much certainty because I know that.
But I'm reminded of this place in Kierkegaard's Works of Love where he talks about the fact that you can rationally get to where Tim is right now.
Yeah, your defensiveness just makes me stronger.
I'm not defensive. I don't. You
That
can
could
call
kind
it
of
whatever you
bring
want.
all of
I'm not defensive. I'm not defensive.
Well, I'm not. I'm not defensive. I'm just saying that the amount of certainty in that is like you're striving against a certainty with a certainty, in a sense, right? You're saying there is no meaning when others say that there is one, or there is no God, ultimately, is what you're saying. And you say you know that. So it's the same, like it's the same as the person saying they know there is meaning or a God.
Why do you
The
have
same
to be
position.
why do you have to be the hero
Mm.
and the protagonist? I mean, that would give me a meaning crisis because I'm self-aware enough that I'm not being a good protagonist or hero.
What is a
I'm
protagonist?
totally depraved.
All
What is
I'm doing right now is saying things that don't align with the Overton window of what you call the TLC. And I'm trying to reveal, right? I'm trying to peel back the layers of spackle that have been so laboriously laid over just the fact that most of us really have no idea what we're fucking talking about.
No, you're projecting here. You are saying that you're basically saying people around here are children and haven't thought about it. And I think it's actually the exact opposite for people around here. I run into people who have not thought about it and they're not around here. So I'm not quite buying your assessment of the TLC. A lot of us are on the other side of what you're just preaching.
I mean, you're putting a lot of words in my mouth, right? You're projecting onto me. You're saying I said things that I didn't just say. So continue to tell me all the things that I am going to say.
Are you doing this as an exercise, or are you expressing how you actually feel?
I'm expressing how I actually feel. And whether like this is just how I feel in the moment or this is how I feel in general, like it doesn't really matter, because you're just going to think what you think. I'm going to think what I think. If you agree, then you agree. If you don't agree, then you don't agree, right? You can rationalize or project or, criticize or do whatever, right? I know that if I hear you say something that actually lands and actually makes me pause, right? It will land and it will make me pause. And I will tell you, wow, I didn't actually think of it that way. But like, I've heard years and years and years of this shit, and like, nothing's been produced. And
McMo, you're muted.
Tim, is your suffering meaningless? Because you don't really like you can say hypothetically that there's these people who are kind of out there who live, were born in suffering, live in suffering, die in suffering, or terror. I can't remember the exact words. Sorry. But what about your particular suffering? Is it meaningless?
that question just sound like I don't have an answer for that question because it doesn't compute. Like it's based on so many presuppositions that.
Are you in a place of privilege over those people who live and die in total suffering?
Yes.
But you still suffer too, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we could say that we have in common with the worst of the worst suffering as such.
To a degree.
And
but,
yeah,
so,
I was just gonna...
but this calculus in and of itself, I don't think leads to productivity. I'll just let you know.
Well, that's fine. I don't really, we're on the Christian absurdist stream here. I'm not really concerned with productivity. We're just yapping. Dude.
I will say that the monotony for me is the worst. Like throughout all my ups and downs and ebbs and flows, I get what Tim's saying, man. There's sometimes like even now, it's like just how busy my life is with a 2.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and a hour commute each way, family, all that kind of stuff. There's some days where I'm just like, what the hell am I doing? Like I know I'm embedded and nested in a whole lot of things that are happening, but there's some days, man, that's just like, oh, I'm doing this thing again. like where is this going? And in my whole life, like I've dealt with like very severe depression, and and that's the thing that I think I've hated the most is just the monotony. But
yeah, doesn't that come from a knowledge that you want more, that life is supposed to be more meaningful?
maybe, I mean, it could have just been like, for me, it's like, wow, everybody else's life just seems to happen. Where's mine coming? Like, like, when's my life supposed to start? Like, I always felt like I missed a class at some point in my education that everybody else attended, and I just happened to be asleep or sick that day, where like all the other people were taught things. So yeah, I mean, obviously, to your point, plebes, yes, but I don't know, like,
maybe not totally intellectually.
Yeah.
But if you examine that, wouldn't you say there's something disordered? Things are supposed to be better. So that's kind of my question to Tim. he made. Yeah, there he is. Is your feelings? I don't want to reduce them to feelings or something, but does it come
Reduce
from
away.
Does it come from a sense that things aren't as they should be?
I don't have the arrogance that would allow me to even answer that question, right? Who the fuck am I to tell you the way things should be? And
But
honestly,
you just
like,
did, because you told me that the dead kids, that was wrong, and it really affects you. So you did.
That's how you interpreted what I said, but that's not what I said.
All right.
That's not what I said, right?
I can't hear you, McMo. You're still muted.
Yeah, I mute myself so too much probably. I was just asking what did Tim say? What, because I heard the same thing Phoebus did, so I'm concerned that I'm mishearing Tim.
Well,
what I
he's
said
just
was
not saying it directly, but he's laying that foundation, that presupposition that, you know, this is really how it is, and everything else that's, you know. How did you put that, Tim? You said something about, you know, you're trying to scrape off the something or other.
Is it absurd? Can we add that word in?
Yeah, you can call me names. It doesn't matter.
No, I meant life. I mean, the way you're looking at the big picture. Does it just seem absurd?
It's
No.
probably just mostly self-owned.
The behavior of individuals is what I find absurd. When I hear them say, I believe X, Y, and Z, and then I see them act in a way that's completely contradictory to what they say they believe, and then I see no consequences bear out, and I see donations roll in to Ko-fi links or to Patreons or to tithes or
That's right.
whatever.
Everybody donate. If you want to help assuage some of Tim's nihilism and his depression, all you have to do is click my Ko-fi link. You'll find it, and we will get Tim the help he needs. Tim,
but
continue, please.
listen to that, right? Listen to the name calling, right? Like, just one alternate perspective, and the entire room is just.
What name did I call you?
Nihilist.
And so that's like a pejorative?
You know it is, and I do too.
I don't.
So does Mark Parker.
I don't think of it as a pejorative. I think of it as a position that you stated quite elegantly and beautifully. So who's calling whose names, Tim?
Don't call me no stinking nihilist.
Don't call me a name caller.
All I keep
I have
hearing
been
is
called
the world is not right, which means you think the world has meaning. Go ahead, Cherry.
I want to change the subject.
No, no. I don't want to change it
better
yet.
let
But
the
let me.
Buddha-
I got like 5 minutes, and you can change the subject because I got to talk. I want to talk about Tim's thing.
Wait.
I literally have 5.
Let me give you a preview of my hot topic.
Wait, Mark, go first. Mark tried to get in earlier and couldn't. So Mark, you go first, and then we'll approach Sherry's hot topic.
Well, I believe Tim said that. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Tim. I think you said that there are millions and even billions of people who aren't taken care of, apparently, by God. That it and yet, you know, you have other people saying, you know, I trust God to take care of me, and He does. But where's God for those millions and billions for whom life isn't going as swimmingly? They're in places of am I getting the gist of it, Tim?
Generally, yeah.
Yeah,
like there are no janitors working the overnight shift suffering from a meaning crisis right now. right? There's not a child in sex slavery in Ecuador suffering from the meaning crisis listening to Paul Vanderklay streams.
Have you met all of them? How do you know?
You could be flippant, but I can also just log off if that's where it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Tim. I think that you're kind of bringing in some of the heaviest to kind of poke and prod us and try to, you said, spread the Overton window, and I'm happy to do it, brother. But I'm not going to play the game where I have to be shocked that there's suffering in the world. That's the world. And you're accusing us of being naive and Pollyannish. And I'm trying to pretty much write a fine line, which is to say that, no, the world is far worse than you could even ever imagine, Tim. You don't know these folks. You haven't stared in the eyes of someone who is, and maybe I'm projecting here too. But the thing is like, we can all say extreme stuff and we can try to shock each other with how bad the world is, or we can try to listen to one another and the people. And I think it's very clear to me that you're in pain. And so I would much prefer to try to help you not feel the way that you're feeling, but I'm kind of getting the vibes that like it's probably not going to be successful, and so that's fine too. Like you can be sad, but I don't think that we're going to cure the child rape across the world on this stream tonight. And so, if you have any advice on how we can fix that, I would be open ears. But like, what's the point of bringing it up other than to spread the Overton window, which I'm happy to do. But like, what would that make, Sorry, I just kind of ranted on you, but like, I feel like you're kind of bringing a bad vibe, dude.
Well, can I just throw something at you? See, you have, you believe it or not, people adapt to all kinds of situations that are horrific. Some of them adapt and survive, and some of them adapt and die. So, there are lots of people, not lots, I guess, but there are many, many stories, anyways, of survivors of the Holocaust who went through the absolute worst of the worst, then lived on, who survived the ordeal, lived on into old age, and had meaningful lives. Some of them lived on and couldn't handle surviving. Same kind of stories happened out of the American slavery experience. And you hear stories even today about people who survive childhood sexual abuse. Some survive, some die, some commit suicide later, some just muddle along. What I think, why it's not a complete waste of time listening to Paul Vanderklay, or for Paul Vanderklay to generate Paul Vanderklay videos, is there are people who will tune in who could easily be on the edge. Most aren't. Most people tune in and listen and and are just trying to fill in an empty half hour of their day with some listening. But there are a few that stumble into this material or stumble into this flotilla or fellowship, and they're on the edge. They're within a hair's breadth of self-deletion, or they're just down and they need a little help up to keep them from going down. Maybe all Vanderklay does is help level them out. They're on a decline, and maybe he gets them to. He's part of the process. My point being, we just don't know what's going on in people's lives. Child slaves harvesting your milk chocolate or the cocoa beans that produce your milk chocolate. Sounds like a catastrophe and a disaster and a human rights horror, and it is. But on the other hand, believe it or not, some of those children are being kept alive through that process. They're actually, the slavery will keep them alive long enough to live into adulthood and ultimately find their way into more prosperous times and a happier life. Life is very complicated. The question is in my despair, am I going to make the world worse? See, I could never, in my worst depressions, I could never figure out a way to off myself without hurting others. Couldn't do it. Couldn't crack that code. Wanted to, couldn't do it. So are you going to pass along the pain? Are you going to punt it? Make a mess for others to clean up or others to endure and suffer through? Or are you going to find a way to pitch in and relieve a little bit of suffering in the time you have here? And that may be all the meaning you got, but it can be enough. That's it. Sorry. Don't know if
Tim,
that did
I wanted to let you talk because I feel like I lost my cool a little bit, and I apologize for that.
You don't need to apologize. You're absolutely right. I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm just a bad vibe. So I'll leave.
He just heard what he wanted to hear, McMo. Don't feel bad about it.
They don't
said
tell.
some good,
They don't tell
good
you
things.
this when the spies are recruiting you to start a live stream channel to influence the masses. They don't tell you that you're.
Tim's been around a long time, and I hope he comes back. I always enjoy what he has to say. So.
Yep, me too. Me too.
Your
He's just
connection
not in a
isn't the
good-
best, McMo. It blinks out a bit.
It's unfortunate to catch somebody. See, the thing is so much of this is brain chemistry and environment.
Yeah.
And an unlucky bounce on any given day. That's 90% of it. It's not spiritual, and it's not Tim isn't doing the work, or Tim isn't smart enough, or any of that shit. It's mostly Tim. There's something happening, and he's kind of he's going through an unlucky hitch in the system, a moment, and it's don't. All I would encourage him to do. I feel it's unfortunate he left, and the link's still there. So hop on again. If all you want to do is sit there and be a face on the screen, sit there and be a face on the screen, and endure the company, such bad company as we are, and have some company to ride it out. And so much of it is just writing it out. And now it's Cherry's turn to change the topic.
Yeah, that hot topic would be great now.
I've got to go to prayer meeting.
Thanks, Mark.
No, you're leaving?
We gave you lots of material.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to pontificate.
No, that was good, Mark. That was awesome. It's too bad you're leaving.
I would love to stay, but I do need to. I've not been at prayer meeting for a couple of weeks because of travels and whatnot. So I need to be with the people.
Or is it me?
Did I freeze?
It's you, Phlebas. You're having troubles.
All right, guys.
Mark,
God bless you.
Mark, pray for Tim.
Of course, already there. Yep, Tim. You know where to find me. I think I've talked to Tim quite a bit. So Tim, you know where to find me. Actually, email on the channel. And I don't know if Tim has my phone number or not, but call me if you need to. Text me. All right. Love you guys.
Thanks, Mark.
See you, Mark.
I'm doing a quick road noise check. How's my road noise in the car driving? Is it okay?
Not too bad.
It's good.
If you got something to say it, brother.
No, I was just checking. I didn't want to derail the show, you know.
Well, okay, here's my hot topic. I'm going to squeeze it in before somebody says something. So I clicked on a video about transgendered mice because I was like, what the? Oh, transgendered mice? My brain was exploding. But here's the worst part of it for me. So there was some woman in American politics. I don't know. I think her last name is Mace. Because I posted it on the Discord, and Zeke said, "Oh, she was my representative or something." I didn't know who she was, but she was listing off some of these crazy expenses, probably from US Aid or something. I'm not sure. But it was experiments on mice, rats, and monkeys. They were sexually transitioning these animals, and then they were testing them for I guess physical responses to certain diseases like AIDS and whatever. And I when I listened to her describing it, I got so upset at these animals being transitioned. I was just like, what? Like, these are little helpless, monkeys. And then when it got into the monkey range, I was like, oh my God, too much consciousness there, and then I realized, how come I don't feel like this when I hear that people are doing that to their children? And then I got disturbed with myself, right? I felt so disturbed for the animals. And then as I realized that I wasn't as disturbed about the children, I started to hear all the I don't know, the strange justifications for doing that to your children, and how we've bought into it, or at least in some way I must have bought into it, because I didn't feel those same intense feelings about the children that I did about the monkeys. There's my hot topic.
There's definitely a normalization with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like if, say, homosexuality, you can just look at your parents or your grandparents and realize you have a completely different attitude towards it because it's been normalized. Yeah, we went through this, Cherry, when my kids were in kindergarten, because the school boards understand that they have to indoctrinate your kid very early. So in like junior kindergarten, when they're 4 years old, they immediately start normalizing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was especially prevalent in my school board, because it's a very progressive region, and probably at least half the board members had children who had transitioned. So it was like a focus. So I did have sort of a visceral response because of the innocence of my kids. So I'm not going to say that I was perfectly empathetic to the other children. Like, I don't know if I have that capacity, but because it was my kids and their innocence was being taken advantage of, then we did have that visceral emotional response, to the point where we had to, even though we couldn't afford to, we had to pull our kids out of school because my wife was like breaking down every day because of more stuff than that too. Like just a lot of, you realize that they're trying, it's a normalization thing. And that's everywhere. That's like, I know how we talk about the limited power of propositions or in the church context, like confessions, right? They're really limited power. But if you can normalize something, if you can, have somebody who embodies a certain practice, at the front every week and normalize it, you're totally desensitized to it. But it is interesting that you had the response to the animals. And yeah, I'm probably desensitized to animals because I grew up on essentially a family factory farm. So
was it factory farm?
Well, I mean, it's a family farm, but if you do anything at scale, it's essentially a factory, right? So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Just thinking about the actual surgeries on these animals, like, how do you transition a mouse? I don't even want to know. Like, I can't even imagine what that surgery.
I think part of it is we have weird ideas about consent as far as humans are concerned.
That's right. I thought of that too.
And one of the tragedies of animal suffering is that we inflict on them is we know that they're helpless.
But then so is a child, eh, Stephen?
Yeah, but the way our culture is, though, when consent and free choices are in the mix, there's like a little wiggle room and obviously like libertine, well, who are we to say? Who knows? This might be their best life. It's kind of weird, but I was just going to say, Sherry, it is strange how you can live in a culture that somebody will argue with you about the ethics of declawing your cat, but not taking genitals off your children. That is a weird place to be in society.
Yeah, it was really uncanny. We can change that subject now.
I don't think it's uncommon either.
Cassandra. Sorry, Cassandra.
I think a lot of people, like progressive climate change people, are much more comfortable saying less humans than less pets or something like that. Like there's, anyways. Yeah,
well,
we
I
could
mean,
change
like
it.
what Stephen said about consent is really interesting, I think, because that did come across, that kind of flitted across my tragic comedy that was playing out in my mind, because we think that because a child can say something that they actually know what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, but then there's all these, like, there was something I saw something about, I guess Elon Musk has wrangled some young kid into the DOGE or whatever, the Doge thing to, audit these governmental agencies, some savant kid. And the complaints were, that he was 19 years old. How can a 19-year-old make those kinds of decisions? And this is coming from mainstream media. And I'm thinking, but a month ago, you would have defended an 8-year-old deciding to become a boy or a girl, the opposite sex, right? So how do they, like, it's just it's so convoluted. It's unreal. It's just unreal. Anyway.
The comments have been a bustling.
Have they?
Joy says she's going to write something soon. The Confessions of a Gen Z Girl. We all look forward to that.
Yeah.
See, money. Going back to earlier conversation, what happens when one of the Lord's children claims that their life has no meaning?
Yeah. Well, hey, I've been there. Like I'm listening to Tim, and I'm thinking about, where I was in 2008, and it wasn't a good place. And I didn't even, Mark said
Well,
he couldn't, you know, pull the trigger, so to speak, on ending his life because he couldn't think of a way to do it without hurting anyone. Well, I never even thought about the hurt that I would cause. I actually believed that it would be a good thing for everybody else. Like it did not cross my mind that I would be hurting anyone. And believe me, I've been reaping the consequences of that action because I did hurt people trying to do that. For a
That's
long time.
partially why I got kind of triggered, because that story is actually like common around here.
Yeah.
Like I was there in university and I dropped out, and so anyways,
yeah.
It's making me. What's coming up for me right now is there was a. Did you guys watch the conversation between Jordan Peterson and Michael Malice?
No, I never did.
I recommend it. I think it was one of Peterson's better conversations in a while.
Oh, okay.
For one, Michael Malice puts him in a jovial mood. And also Michael Malice was dressed up as the guy who stormed the Capitol on January 6th with the buffalo horns
I
and
remember
the
seeing the
face paint. But fairly early in the video, Michael basically asks Jordan to explain the psychology of the worst people. And it's almost, you get the sense from Malice that it is out of almost like pure ignorance or curiosity, because he just can't understand how someone could do something so evil. And Peterson basically makes him confirm that he's ready to hear what it is. And this is where it got personal for me, because it never, and it's akin to kind of what you were talking about, Sherry, like I had never had any problems imagining the motivations of the worst individuals. That's the type of person that I can proudly say I am an empath of, and you could blame it on the total depravity, but I didn't really get any of that kind of stuff until I was a teenager.
I was just teasing you.
But I know, and I appreciate it. But like there is a sense in which I found Peterson's explanation not that interesting. It kind of was maybe confirming a lot of my priors as to what I would have guessed for someone who is in the psychology of doing the worst of the worst. But I was surprised at Michael Malice's surprise, that he had just never considered that someone could be so evil, so as to really, to really get off on being as bad as possible. And, I that's where my mind goes to, I guess, in the sense of like, I've just, I don't think you'll ever find a bottom to the darkness, right? It's like, if you want to start talking about like suicidal ideation, it then becomes this weird, like, not that we were doing this, but like it can become a competition of like, oh, who got closest to the line, so that we can garner with them respect, and they're the expert or something. Phoebus, you're muted, brother.
Alyosha in the Brothers K, when Ivan gives him that rant, which is essentially what he was just doing the same rant that Ivan gave Alyosha. Just about helpless children and horrible stories that Ivan relayed. And Alyosha just, when it was over, he just kissed him, And I've thought a lot about that interaction between them, and I think, and of course, this is just the meaning that I get out of it, right? But I think Alyosha was saying he was confirming the pain that Ivan was in, right? Ivan was in pain about these things. Like they caused him great pain, just as they caused him great pain. And basically, blessed are those who mourn with them, with those, who mourn, right? Who are mourning. That's basically all you can do, honestly.
I had to repent of some of that stuff. I used to say to myself that I couldn't. The only people I truly trusted had thought, or people who had thought of killing themselves. As in, those are the only people whose eyes were truly open, and that was a pretty evil thing to. I trust PVK, and he's got that cortical lottery going on, and you get married, and you can't say stuff like that anymore.
I remember that part of the brothers Karamazov, and what's striking me now is the genius of Dostoevsky. It's a repetition of the story that his brother just told, the Grand Inquisitor, where Jesus's only response is a kiss to the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And so if you want to read it in a certain way, you can say Alyosha was so mind controlled and had been basically he had been brought up from such an early age by his mother to whatever Jesus did was the thing to do, and so he just blindly followed the story that his brother just told him, and so he there's a way to look down at Alyosha for doing that, which is of course what probably Ivan would have thought, right? And so that had never occurred to me until just now, even though I had clocked the repetition. Sherry, I think you helped me figure out one of the aspects of why that's so brilliant and why it works as a narrative about Jesus that's extra biblical, that actually like people, most Christians kind of say like Jesus and the Great Inquisitor sounds like him, kind of a thing. But my dog is barking his head off right now.
Your dog is being so annoying.
Yeah, he misses mom. That's the real. He's mad at me that mom won't come home.
Aw. Yeah. Well, there's this other aspect to all of this. Maybe we could turn a corner with this one. That this, God tells us to choose life, and I've thought about that a long time. Yeah, maybe the entire gospel is contained in that kiss. Yes, God with us, Emmanuel, right? God with. Joseph made this really salient to me a couple of years ago, because I've always thought, we have to we just have to choose, right? Like we have to choose our way through life, and we can choose to be in despair, or we can choose. I mean, sometimes we can't, like Mark was saying, sometimes it's just a matter of, brain chemistry, right? It's difficult. But if you're able, you can choose life. And I've been in some pretty, precarious and dark situations where I did choose life, and they lit up, in spite of the circumstances. And that's a
one
really
thing I
good
was
feeling.
one thing I was going to mention too is, this sounds weird, but in retrospect, I'm actually really grateful for all. I'm grateful, again, it's going to sound weird. I'm grateful for all my sins in my past, because at least there was something to do. And like in my worst, darkest moments, at least I had something. I wish I didn't have them in one respect, but I have the life I have. So when I look back on it, I go, that was awful, it was terrible, it was traumatic, but I still found a way to enjoy a little bit of have some interaction, enjoy a little bit of life, as chaotic and screwed up as it was. It kind of gave me a lifeline. It kept me going.
Yeah.
Are you saying that, Stephen, about things that happened to you or things you did? Because it sounded like
both. I mean, both, really. Yeah. I mean, there's always a way you handle things that happen to you differently than the things that you did. But I guess specifically, I was more talking about the things that I actually was doing. But it's like when I like talk to Chad, especially like when like Alcoholics Anonymous. I always want to give the vice its due, because people shouldn't be alcoholics, but alcohol is a good drug and it has its purposes, You have to give the devil his due.
From your lips to God's ears, brother.
So tell me one good thing that happened today that you're grateful for, McMo.
Ooh, good question. So, and it makes me, it's a very nostalgic question for me, because my family growing up, we had a nightly ritual of saying things that we were grateful for, thankful for. One thing that went well today. Well, there was some stuff at work that went well. I don't want to give specifics because I don't like talking about my company and stuff like that. But yeah, had some good stuff happen at work today. Other than that, it was just kind of me and my dog in my backyard trying to get some potty breaks in between the rain that's coming down. So, and then another good thing is my wife safely made it down to Savannah yesterday and went out with her girls tonight and made it back home. So, I work from home, Almond Tree, so it's it's kind of it doesn't hit the same. What about you? Well, Sherry's left. Phlebas, Steve.
No, I'm here.
Oh, well,
yeah.
what about you?
No,
you guys? One good thing, one thing you're grateful for?
we're getting a proper amount of snow this year, which hasn't happened in a while. And we're getting hit with a big storm right now. Maybe that's why my internet sucks. And the kids have a snow day tomorrow. Like, it's pre-planned, which doesn't happen very often. Things are quite a bit softer than when I was a kid, but they've canceled school. So it's kind of just a nice atmosphere around the house. So thankful for that.
For me, it's always my kids. My 2.5-year-old son is starting to string words together, which is fun. And him and my 1.5-year-old daughter started playing a game last night that they basically are turning around in circles so they make themselves dizzy. And they do it for 15, 20 minutes at a pop. It's awesome.
Your turn, Sherry.
I spent the weekend with my daughter and my grandson. So my youngest daughter moved back to Canada, and they live about an hour and a half away. And when they first arrived, they were here for a couple nights, and then they went to where they're going to be. They're house sitting for a lady who's gone to Peru on an ayahuasca trip.
Uh-oh.
And then they were, they got there a couple weeks before she left so they could learn all the ropes. She's got a kind of a remote place and all that kind of thing. And so I hadn't seen them since they left here. And then my daughter and I planned for her and my grandson to come for the weekend. And my grandson turned 1 in November, so he's just a little guy. And he just loved me. And that was just so good. you know, like I'm just getting to know him, right? And he wanted up, he wanted to follow me. He would wrap his little arms around my neck and just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze for the longest time. And yeah, and my daughter was, told me he doesn't do that to everybody, Mom. He doesn't do that to anybody, actually. I was like, really? So that was just like,
Oh,
you have
kids
no
know.
idea. Like I was just like, I was soaking it up. I was just soaking it up.
I doubt that me and my wife will do this when we have kids, but we definitely pull the mind control trick when our dog is super friendly to somebody, just being like, oh, he never does that. Just because we know it makes our friends feel like special and loved by our dog or something,
No, parents don't lie about that.
My daughter wasn't kidding. She wasn't kidding. So that I'm really grateful for them to be here and to have my little grand boy to grow up with.
How many
Really grateful.
how many grandkids do you have, Sherry?
I have 5.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
My
I
oldest
grew up with.
daughter. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, my oldest daughter, she has 3 kids, and her oldest is 19 and her youngest is 13. My grandson in that family is 17. He's actually going to be starting his Swiss military service soon because they have
got
to go
good
for
knives they hand out to the army there, I heard.
19 weeks. Yeah, Swiss pocket knives they get. Yeah. And then my son has a almost 2-year-old now. He'll be 2 in April.
So there's like a family lore joke for my dad that when he married my mom, he was way more interested in grandkids than he was in children. And my dad's like an engineer, like might be on the spectrum kind of a thing, very kind of, likes to have everything in order and is good with math and all of that stuff. But my mom, the story goes that my mom drew him a flow chart as to like, first we have to have children, and then after a long time of self-sacrifice and loving them, then maybe we get grandkids after that. But yeah, my dad was always the best with like making little jokes like that, just being like, you got to grow up, you got to get married, and you got to have lots of babies because that's really the only reason I had you, is so that I could be a grandfather. And it was of course joking, but I can't even imagine.
Siblings?
Yeah, I have a little sister.
Okay.
She lives out in L.A., near L.A.
Okay.
Yeah, she's very, very cool. She is a music therapist, and she works at a mental health facility. And she calls it the loony bin. So every time I tell people about it, I have to like remember like what's it actually called, because she's like, yeah, I got to go down to the loony bin. But she loves her job and just always has the funniest stories, and sometimes some very dark and sad stories, but it's like she has like the perfect job for her. Like it is like perfect for her. Why was I saying all that? Oh yeah, because I can't even imagine. Me and my wife are just like really just dipping our toe into like dreaming and thinking about like, okay, we're gonna have kids in the next couple of years. Like, what things do we need to get in order, et cetera, et cetera. And I can't imagine just the joy of grandchildren. It must just be like, it's like double the joy or something, because like
It's
the
really
people you made have
surreal.
made people.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part of it that's so surreal, McMo. It's like you're looking at this person, and it's like I got this sense when Jonah was born, because I get along really well with my son's wife's parents, and I'm like, ooh, they're part Claudia and Volker, and they're part Sherry and Uli, and they're part Anne and Nat, and like we're all connected. It's my favorite place to be. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I love it. My dad used to always say, grandparents are for forgetting. That's the only reason you have them, just so you can forget that you have them.
Oh man.
I know. I'm like, Dad, it's horrible.
That actually, I loved both of my fathers. Both of my grandfathers were like funny men. Um, and I actually just remembered this the other day. But like when I first started to read, my dad's dad, gave me a bunch of clean joke books. And so the like first books that I really remember reading were like just joke books. And I told my wife that the other day because I was like, I just remembered something. I think I basically learned to reading joke books. And she was like, well, that explains so much.
Everything.
Yeah.
That's like one of the worst gifts you can give a kid besides electronic, like things that make a lot of noise, because when we got joke books, my parents had to suffer us reading every single joke every day out of the book.
Yeah, that's one thing. My parents never faked laugh. It had to be a real laugh. So that was that was the hard. Like Phoebus grew up on a farm. I grew up with parents that didn't give me any fake laughs. I had to really make them laugh. We all struggle in our own ways.
All right, guys, I made it home. I'll see y'all when I see y'all.
Thanks for hanging.
Yep, thanks for having.
Made it back.
Bye, guys.
I thought maybe this got overtaken by the snow.
No, my oldest was going to bed, so.
Okay.
And we were talking about it, so I was feeling bad.
We reminded you have responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see the weather report for Southern Ontario, and like you guys are getting slammed.
Yeah, certain parts, but yes. Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Do you guys? So I grew up with my parents being much stricter than my grandparents, except for one exception, which my grandmother was fairly strict. Not really strict; she was just hard-headed. So it wasn't like that she was being that she had more rules or less rules. It was just that she wasn't changing her rules just because my parents had their own kind of a thing. But when I think of like one of the things that must make grandparenting easier is that you don't have that kind of weight of responsibility of like, I'm causing the trauma that this person will have to grow from for the rest of their life kind of a thing.
Yeah, you you can't overthink the parenting thing too much, because at every single moment you're forming your kid. It's like you're looking at your phone and somebody's like, "Oh, your kids PVK keeps saying that your kids are watching you."
Yeah. They see what you're looking
that's
at,
what he
not
keeps
what you
saying.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I wear sunglasses. I don't want any of my babies out there in the hive mind knowing where I'm looking.
My parents drive
Yeah,
me
but
crazy.
we can see it perfectly in your glasses. It's so.
You call me.
Go ahead, please.
My parents drive us crazy because they'll spoil the kids, and we're just like, all that hard work we put in, and you guys just ruined it. But anyways, that's yeah.
Yeah, I know my
Yeah.
dad's going to be a menace. He is just going to give my kids candy and like it's going to be. I think that I'm not really ready for the amount of joy that my father is going to have being a grandfather. Just waiting his whole life for this moment. I'm really not prepared for it.
You're gonna love handing him that baby. You're gonna feel so proud.
Yeah.
I already love
Seriously.
dropping my dog off at his house.
There you go.
Kids are different.
Yeah. I know. Well, Joy
Actually,
left a very
I'll
very
say
nice.
one more thing.
Yeah, please do.
Oh yeah, I read that from Joy. Joy's very nice. A long time ago, you know how you have these moments of things that PVK says that like stick with you? We call them the greatest hits.
Yeah.
He had this. I've never been able to find it, and now that dumb website's down. But he was talking about how they had like a VHS recording camera or whatever. So they had family videos, So he was watching himself, and he realized, I don't even know what he said exactly. He just realized that he was that dad, as in he wasn't doing a good job at being a dad. So he's watching himself and he goes, I was that dad. And that's actually really stuck with me
Yeah.
in a weird way. But yeah, I don't think it helps to dwell on that or overanalyze that. It's fun watching Chad right now because he's in the analysis stage and
Yeah.
he's got too much time on his hand, and it's like,
Well, we're looking at the opposite directions of Chad, right? Like I'm like looking forward to, I'm like taking notes on like what are the waves of neuroticism and what am
Yeah.
all of it. Because me and Chad are very similar in a lot of ways. So I think I'm probably going to be very similar to him in regards to this. But he stopped commenting in the hive mind. So either he's gone to bed, which I think he does. He has to go to bed pretty early. He wakes up at like
Yeah.
4 a.m. and does his stream.
Yeah,
So
and I did see that he said it could be tonight.
it could be tonight. So it could happen during this very stream. If you want Chad's baby to come tonight, hit that Ko-Fi link, donate.
Our first was 10
Hey.
days overdue, so they sometimes
10
take
days?
Yeah, well, that's the max they'll let you before they give you the drugs. So, yeah,
Induce it.
Nathan and Shelley Woods just had another one. Just got
Wow.
the announcement. 3 boys they've got now. So yeah.
When I was growing up, this is like quicksand. There was a meme about quicksand a few years ago that was like, growing up, I thought I would see a lot more quicksand in my life. It seemed to be like a big important thing that I need to know about and look out for. And I have not seen quicksand once, and I kind of feel like that with like triplets and quadruplets. Like when I was growing up, there was the like John and Kate plus 8 phenomenon, and like on the Learning Channel down here in the States. I don't know if you guys get TLC up there. That was the original TLC, the Learning Channel. But yeah, like, because when you just said 3 boys, Sherry, I was like, all at once, but you don't really hear of people maybe twins, but you don't really hear about like triplets or quadruplets, or like when was the last time, maybe it's on a different part of the internet, like like Boomer Facebook or something. But like, when's the last time we had some octuplets?
Oh, Luke F.
I think they just
is on his double twins, isn't he?
Oh yeah, Luke F has double twins. That's right.
Yeah. But I think they just got better at this fertility clinic stuff.
Chad's still with us.
Oh, Chad.
How do you know Chad? It's not like the old days. I have some aunt and uncles who are twins, and they were like a total surprise.
Yeah.
I feel like they should let you know. It should be like under law on your like 18th birthday or something. They should let you know whether or not you were originally a twin and like killed your other twin or whatever. Because like that's just one of those things, because I'm so neurotic. Early on, I was like, that's probably me. I was probably the lesser of the two and the more evil one, and that's why I'm struggling here. And if only the better twin would have survived, like.
Do you know the stories that Martin Shaw tells about the wild twin?
I'm familiar with the term the wild twin. I'm not sure if I got that from him, but I'm not. No narratives are popping up in my brain to be like, yes, you've definitely heard that story.
Okay, I know of 2 because I read his book, The Wild Twin.
That's right. It's his book. That's why I know it. It's because it's the title of his book. No, I have not read it.
Yeah, but there's old stories. One's called The Lindworm, and I can't remember the name of the other one. But it's a theme that kind of pops up in old fairy tale type stories of a queen that gives birth, and she gives birth to twins. And the first one is always some kind of animal. Like in the Lindworm, it's a serpent, and in the other story, it's a girl, but she's like a goat, right? All hairy and has horns and hoofed feet and stuff. And the midwife, because they're in the throes of labor and childbirth, and the first one comes out, and the midwife kind of looks at it and is out the window, right? And doesn't tell anybody that this creature came out first. But then they come back because they're firstborn. So they have, and it's always a royal family. So they've got some kind of claim on being, the firstborn, right? They've got a title or whatever. In the Lindworm, the claim is that they decide to marry the prince off, the child that, the midwife didn't throw out the window, who thinks he's the only child, and the queen thinks he's the only child, right? And then suddenly this serpent comes back, and of course it's massive. It's huge, right? It's Godzilla style, huge. And it demands to be married first because it's the firstborn. And so they have to, and they won't, as long as it's not married, the younger son can't get married. And so they have to find it a wife. And
got a few recommendations.
And because it's the king's son, girls are putting themselves forward, but it just kills and eats them, like one by one, Anyway, if you go on to YouTube, you can hear Martin Shaw tell the story of the Lindworm. It's a very fascinating story because, well, of course, one girl ends up marrying the Lindworm. And that's all I'm going to tell you. But it's an interesting theme of a firstborn wild twin that gets just thrown out into nature, so to speak, to survive on its own, and that it finds its way back, right? And then, of course, Martin Shaw expands on that theme with finding your wild twin,
I don't think that I made this joke up, but I have a memory of me and my wife laughing at the idea that back in the day when they had like traveling like carny shows or whatever, where they've got like all of these like weird folks like the strong man, and like how we were laughing because like what society back then thought was crazy was like, it's just, some of it's just normal now, like, tattoos. Like just a guy with tattoos would have been like at a freak show, It's like, come see this person who's like permanently altered their skin. And then I think we must have seen it somewhere, but they just had like not conjoined twins, but just like identical twins at a freak show. Like it was just like these two perfectly healthy people, but just they look exactly like each other. And so it was like this big crazy thing to like come see these two folks that look exactly like each other.
Anything for a buck.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, I'm getting pretty sleepy. It's definitely past my bedtime normally, but my wife isn't here to keep me honest about my bedtime. So I probably need to shut her down unless anybody's got some closing thoughts that I just can't shake myself away from.
Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts.
I hope you have a good sleep and sweet dreams.
Thank you very much. Phoebus, I hope that yours is not the same closing thoughts, but what do you have as closing thoughts?
I want to talk about the Eucharist again sometime.
Okay, we'll put it in the docket. The Eucharist, along with Luke's question, do we have any hot takes on is there a Christian political ethic?
What does that even mean?
He's all worked up because him and
he's on Twitter now.
He's on Twitter and he's getting his amygdala triggered by all of the crazy takes on Twitter. And now he's been, I think that what's his name, Jordan Daniel Wood and Luke were having a disagreement, a congenial one, I'm sure, on X earlier. So he's probably ruminating on that. C Money says, can Christ even be political? Mark S. with the.
I don't even know. Like, to me, political ethic is an oxymoron.
Yeah. Well, these and many more hot takes to come next time on the McMo stream.
Thanks, McMo.
Thank you
thanks,
guys so
McMo.
much. And I'll see you next
As we always love us and our coming of our Savior Jesus Christ.